Imagine an ocean so ancient and so inhospitable that even the greatest predators of the dinosaur era would seem fragile compared to what lived there. A submerged world where darkness was permanent, the cold was piercing, and the pressure could instantly crush any land creature into dust. It's hard to picture, but for millions of years, the ocean floor was the stage for biological phenomena so extreme that they still challenge our understanding today. And many of the beings that emerged from this aquatic nightmare left descendants that still inhabit Earth's depths. The theme may sound grim, but what exactly made prehistoric oceans a living laboratory for some of the most extraordinary creatures that ever existed? Throughout this narrative, we will explore giant beings, surgical predators, unlikely survivors, and creatures so enigmatic they seem to have stepped out of a science fiction novel. Get ready. The deeper we go, the stranger it becomes. If today we already consider the ocean depths terrifying, filled with massive sharks, colossal squids, and unfathomable mysteries, imagine that same environment hundreds of millions of years ago. Sunlight vanished within the first few meters, temperatures plummeted close to zero, and crushing pressure reigned supreme. It was in this environment the true masterpieces of survival evolved. There were no plants, no colors, no refuge, and so every creature that thrived there had to develop astonishing strategies. Some grew gigantic, others smaller, specialized to the extreme. Still others created their own light to attract prey, mates, or victims. And one curious detail stands out. Many of these beings were already ancient residents of Earth long before dinosaurs walked on land. While our favorite giants were still exploring their first forests, these aquatic monsters already ruled kingdoms of shadow. One of the most emblematic creatures of this ancestral abyss was the ophthalmosaurus, a marine reptile that swam in the depths about 150 million years ago. With eyes as large as dinner plates, this species had vision so sharp it could detect the faintest traces of light thousands of meters below the surface. Picture an animal the size of a dolphin, but with colossal eyes that required internal bony supports to keep them from deforming under pressure. It could dive for more than 20 minutes, traveling through absolute darkness in search of squids, fish, and bioluminescent creatures. While other marine reptiles patrolled sunlit shallow waters, the ophthalmosaurus descended to the very limits of life and thrived there. But why risk so much? The answer is simple. Down there, food was abundant and less contested. In that abyss, it was king. And just when you think ruling it would be enough, another intriguing question arises. What predators did it encounter down below? What even larger creatures hid beyond the light?
Following this line, we find another nocturnal specialist, Phosphorosaurus, a small mosasaur only about 12 feet long, but with something extremely peculiar. Its eyes faced forward, like those of an owl. This gave it surgical depth perception, ideal for hunting fast prey at night. While the daytime giants rested, this little hunter began its silent patrol, gliding through the darkness in search of glowing fish and unsuspecting squid. A reptilian predator with behavior similar to birds of prey that would appear millions of years later. It practically inaugurated the concept of a nocturnal marine predator, something extraordinary when we remember it lived in prehistoric Japan at the same time the T-Rex reigned in North America. And the question remains, how many other small specialized predators existed and were never fossilized? But if we're talking predators, we must mention one of the most brutal monsters to survive to this day, the viperfish. Its fangs are so long, they extend beyond its jaw, even when the mouth is closed, creating a permanent smile of pure terror. To prevent those fangs from shattering its skull when striking prey, nature developed something astonishing, an anatomical shock absorber right behind the head. When the viperfish attacks, it launches like a living missile, impaling its prey with devastating impact. It glows in the dark, uses lights to lure victims, and remains motionless for hours, all while waiting for the perfect moment to kill. And the scariest part? It still exists today, silent, efficient, hidden miles beneath the surface. And speaking of living descendants of prehistory, few are as impressive as the goblin shark. With its bizarre appearance, pinkish skin, elongated snout, and flabby body, it is a true living fossil. Its secret weapon is a pair of extendable jaws that can shoot several inches out of its face, grabbing prey with needle-like teeth. This mechanism, identical to that of its ancestors 125 million years ago, remains so effective today that it has barely changed through evolution. A biological machine perfectly adapted to hunt in the dark, so efficient it never needed improvement. But no story of the deep would be complete without the anglerfish, famous for its luminous antenna that dangles in the darkness like a living lure. Yet what truly intrigues scientists is its reproductive method. The tiny male, unable to survive alone, bites the female and fuses permanently with her body. Their veins connect, his organs atrophy, and he becomes a living pouch of genetic material, a grotesque adaptation that ensures reproduction in a vast darkness where finding a mate is almost impossible. An almost unimaginable example of extreme survival strategy. Now let's travel even further back in time, to 430 million years ago. At that time, the sea floor opened into volcanic vents, releasing water so hot it could dissolve flesh instantly. Yet bizarre creatures called tube worms found their home there. They had no mouths, no eyes, and relied exclusively on symbiotic bacteria for nourishment. They formed dense colonies around these hydrothermal vents, creating living cities that, incredibly, still exist today. For millions of years, they repeated the same life cycle, moving from one vent to another whenever the previous one cooled. Imagine surviving in an environment where the ground literally boils and thriving in it. Another impressive example is the coelacanth, an ancestral fish thought to be extinct until 1938. It survived quietly for 66 million years, hidden in deep underwater caves. When rediscovered, science had to rewrite entire chapters on vertebrate evolution. This prehistoric creature, a distant relative of the first animals to walk on land, continues to live exactly as it did when the world was dominated by giant reptiles. And what about crinoids, organisms that looked like plants but are animals that grew like true underwater trees? There was a time when they covered the entire ocean with forests, living immobile while filtering food from the water. Even today, some species survive in the depths, a silent reminder of an era when the sea resembled an alien garden. Among the most intriguing predators to ever inhabit the deep ocean stands Abyssosaurus, a marine reptile with bones so dense they acted as natural weights, allowing it to sink into the darkest regions. Its body was a hypnotic combination of strength and specialization. Giant lungs, eyes adapted to absolute darkness, and a skeleton designed to live and hunt in conditions that would crush any other animal. And speaking of peculiar creatures, we must mention Diplomacerus, a prehistoric mollusk with a body shaped like a giant paperclip. It lived for about 200 years, floating vertically and capturing prey with tentacles suspended beneath its body. Its longevity and improbable shape puzzled paleontologists for decades until its biology was finally understood. Finally, think of blind trilobites that chose to abandon vision entirely and thrived in absolute darkness for hundreds of millions of years. These animals walked through the ages as silent witnesses to the history of life, surviving extinctions that wiped out countless more sophisticated species. Sometimes, being simple means being invincible. The most intriguing realization of all is that for every prehistoric creature we know, there are dozens, perhaps hundreds, that left no trace. Species that vanished in silence, without fossils, without records, without memory. Most of the deep ocean remains untouched and unknown. What unimaginable beings once lived there? And more importantly, what still lives there today? If you enjoyed this journey through the prehistoric ocean and want to explore more secrets of dinosaurs and ancient creatures, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That helps me a lot to keep bringing you content in this documentary format. See you next time.